without further ado, I would like to invite my two panelists online. And we have Jana from Tech UK. We have Tom Attenborough from the London Stock Exchange. And joining me here in person, we have Russ Shaw, the founder of Global Tech Advocates and London Tech Advocates. It's great to have you here in person, and of course, it's great to have you joining us online. So this, I'm going to take a seat this time. So it's really interesting to be looking at the most recent developments, like I said. And just a couple of weeks ago, we witnessed a huge event in Glasgow, COP26. An event like that hasn't happened for 5 years, or actually 6 years, because the last one took place in Paris in 2015. So what I would like to focus on in this last session for today would be to see how emerging European startups can join forces with the UK and perhaps learn from the UK to go global, basically, or go global and develop their solutions that can help plenty of different people use them. So I would like to start with Russ, who's actually here with me. I know that our community, and I'm talking about global tech advocates and in particular, tech London advocates, tech Scotland advocates as well, was particularly involved in what was going on in Glasgow. So if you can start by telling us what the key takeaways have been since that, from that event.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me okay. Thank you for having me, and congratulations to you and Diana for a great Tech Emerging Europe Advocates event on Tech Net Zero. Maybe if I can just take a little step backwards. Obviously, our Tech Scotland Advocates group was broadcasting live from COP26 on the 3rd of November. But if you look at it prior to that, we've done events throughout the year. We had a big investor showcase event back in June. We had all of our GTA leaders together. We were part of this during London Tech Week to talk about tech for net zero and the world. Our groups in the Americas did their own event at the end of October. So we've seen a lot of activity, not just here in London, but in many of our tech hubs around the world, really trying to grips with what can tech do. And I think we've also conducted our own surveys of the community, and we've got a great resource. So a lot of initiatives underway, and I guess that's one of the key learnings for me throughout all of this has been the importance of measurement and data. And when we did our survey of advocates about 5 or 6 months ago, 59% said we're really not even measuring their impact on tech net zero, and they really need to do so. So first and foremost, it's about looking at whether you're a small startup or a scaling business or a large corporate, how are you measuring your own environmental impact? Are you looking at the data, and then how are you taking that data to drive your action plan? I think if there's one key learning that I'm hearing across many of our groups globally, even a little bit here today, it's that point.
I totally agree here, and that is really important also in the sort of health tech area, because over the last 2 years we've seen how collecting statistics related to health has been important. But what you said about understanding your own carbon footprint, that is something that a lot of companies have absolutely no idea about and how to measure. We're pointing to that in the Future of Sustainability report that we released last week. And it oftentimes is that companies are only aware of perhaps 10% of their carbon footprint, and there's a lot of room for improvement. So going back to Scotland and Glasgow, what have been the key sort of goals that tech has now, in front of, we're talking about different companies, and what can tech do to contribute to lowering that carbon footprint?
I think tech has a very important leadership role in terms of how do we model, how do we show the way forward in terms of driving a tech net zero agenda. And I think, I'm listening to some of the comments earlier, no matter how small your business, you're a 2 or 3 person startup, you have a role to play. You collectively have a role to play in all of this. And I think the other thing that we kind of coming out of COP26 for us has been the messages of a lot of the technology to solve the problem already exists. Yes, there's new stuff that we need to work on, looking at carbon capture and storage and how do you better leverage hydrogen solutions. There's a lot that needs to be done there, but many of the technologies already exist today. I think our challenge as a tech sector ecosystem is how do we get the funding we need to really accelerate many of these businesses, which is why I thought the previous session was really, really helpful. How do we get investors behind this in a bigger, bolder way? How do we really ramp this up? And the other thing is, how do we share best practices and examples and ideas from hub to hub so that, we're not all starting from scratch, but we're getting behind a good idea that might be coming out of Mexico. Our guys who run Tech Mexico Advocates have done a fantastic job with the business that they have. They're coming here to Europe to expand their business. Let's get behind that. What's going on in parts of Eastern Europe and Ukraine? I was at an event with David last week with DTEC, a energy company, private energy company in Ukraine, coming to London to look for innovation and ideas to really help them in this particular space. That is where I think our hubs and ideas can really come together. Say, the ideas and the solutions are largely out there today. Let's really ramp up our activity.
It's interesting what you said about the company based out of Ukraine that is also inviting startups from countries like the UK. So that is actually a very good point for me to start the broader discussion about Central and Eastern Europe and the UK. So I would like to involve both Tom and Jana right now to tell us what particular, what is here in the UK that Central and Eastern Europe can learn from. Can I start with Jana?
Yes, of course. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Wonderful. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Jana Psarska, as Andrew mentioned, and I'm policy manager for international trade at Tech UK. Tech UK is UK's leading technology trade association, and we have 21 plus programs. One of them is a sustainability program. And in this program, we actually engage green tech, climate tech companies. And going back to your question, why actually? Okay.
We're talking about technology, and technology always, always tricky.
Perfect. Just going back to your question, why actually the UK is doing well in clean tech, and how actually the UK can help maybe some companies in emerging Europe, in Central and Eastern Europe to innovate, and how we can actually, what they can learn from the UK. So I think why the UK is leading in clean tech and will be leading actually in green trade and green tech solutions comes down to 2 factors. As Raz mentioned, technology is a key denominator and will be crucial in actually meeting net zero targets. Technology solutions, and that has already been acknowledged, whether that was at COP26, but also before, technology solutions will be really important to driving that change. And that includes AI, blockchain, cloud, and many other solutions or tech solutions that are probably not even available at the moment. And speaking of AI, cloud, blockchain, the UK is actually leading in these tech markets. And that again comes down to a number of factors, investment in research, leading universities, thriving tech ecosystems in these tech markets. And another factor is definitely, UK was the first country in 2019 that made a legal commitment to actually become net zero by 2050. And the following year, the Prime Minister announced a 10-point plan on how to actually get there, on what we will be doing in order to kind of, make green industrial revolution happen. And that included actually significant investment into R&D, but also into commercialization of some of the green technologies. Because obviously, in my view, in order to kind of make things happen and in order to, for the technology or any actually technology ecosystem to thrive, you need three main ingredients. And that's finance. Secondly, that's research, scientists. And thirdly, that's commercialization. You need to support entrepreneurs. And I'm sure Tom will speak about it later. The UK and the City of London, green finance, that's definitely something that we are experts on. So we need those resources to actually, obviously, we need resources going into green investments, into green projects. But at the same time, we need scientists, we need innovation. And the UK government made actually commitments to increase R&D, to increase actually share of GDP going into R&D to nearly 3% by 2030, if I'm not mistaken. But we need to also focus on commercialization. And that's where actually regulators, policymakers, and businesses need to work together in order to put mechanisms and tools into place so we can actually bring these innovations, these new solutions to market. And we can't really wait 10, 20 years. We need to commercialize those solutions as soon as possible. So I think those three kind of elements, denominators that we really need in order to make green trade, green tech happen and put it into practice as soon as possible. And I think the UK has everything in place, can actually draw on its expertise in regulation, as it's doing really very well in other tech sectors, whether that's AI, fintech, and so on, can definitely draw on its expertise in green finance, in finance sector. And I think that's what is definitely driving green or low carbon technologies here in the UK and creates such a thriving ecosystem in this area. And obviously that creates a lot of opportunities for other companies either come here to set up their business and become a part of that ecosystem, become a part of those tech clusters that create the opportunities for knowledge spillovers and so on. Or maybe there is an opportunity to also create innovation partnerships, collaboration opportunities on a G2G basis or through the platforms like this. And I think I'll stop here. I've been speaking for a bit, and I'm keen to hear also Tom's take on this topic. Andrew, I can't hear you. Not sure. Tom, can you hear him?
I can't hear Andrew, no.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Andrew, we can't hear anything here online.
No, we can't.
Andrew, I can't hear you, but can you hear us? Okay, great. Well, I haven't heard the last sort of minute and a half, but perhaps I can just say a few things, and you can just, by sign language, let me know whether I'm hitting the right spots or not. Look, first of all, I do apologise for not being there in person. Andrew, don't take it personally. This is not strictly COVID related. I just woke up today with pretty filthy cold and cough, and didn't think that was something that needed inflicting on the rest of the room. So many apologies, and to have to be doing this virtually when I'm not very far away physically. But anyway, there we go. I think Jana's raised a number of really interesting points about the strength of the London ecosystem to help support companies in this space. And I think just to reiterate a couple of points, I think this sits right in the centre of three things that London does really well. Firstly, tech. I think as we spend a lot of time talking about at the London Stock Exchange, we've been a bit down on ourselves at times about the strength of the UK tech market compared to other parts of the world, particularly the US. But I think we've seen this year a really vibrant funding system for tech. It's been nearly half of the volume we've seen in IPOs in the London market in tech and consumer internet this year. So I think that is something that is increasingly a real strength we can point to and evidence. Secondly, the point Jana made about green finance, absolutely critical. I think the London market has made real steps forward in the last 36 months and tried to take a leading role, whether it's on green bonds, whether it's the launch of the Green Economy Mark, which differentiates companies that contribute with over 50% of their revenues directly impacting the green economy, whether it's transition bonds. There's an ecosystem here and an investor base that really wants to deploy more capital into these areas. And we're starting to see that. We now have 108 Green Economy Mark issuers here in the London market, in the listed market, which have, if you track back 5 years, have outperformed the FTSE All-Share by 110%. Now, whether that is all because they are better businesses or because there's greater capital chasing those opportunities, it's arguably going to be a little bit of both. But I think that just underscores the weight of capital that wants to be putting more into these areas. And this is only going to increase. We've seen some of the data about the generation wealth effects that we're seeing at the moment. So I think that the stat I saw, which is I always think of, which is simply staggering, is that globally we expect $70 trillion to be inherited by millennials from effectively the baby boomer generation by 2030. And these are investors who really care about this stuff. And so therefore we're going to be seeing increasing desire to participate directly, not just in things that are growing and exciting, but things that are really doing good for society and for the broader economy. I think, I only have to look at my children to see that working in action. I get beaten up by my children the whole time about things that are in our shopping basket that they want to know more about where it's come from and questions that historically we've grown up not asking ourselves. And that is, I think, only going to increase. So I think this is a real opportunity for, to focus in the crosshairs here about what London does really well. The third piece is its international nature, of course. And that's something that, will be very familiar to everyone in the room. But, 40% of the companies that list in London are international businesses. We already support a number of Central and Eastern European businesses. We've had a couple of Eastern European tech businesses join this year, whether it's Eurowag in the Czech Republic, whether it's Softline out of Russia. I think as some of the names we saw in the panel before and some of the really exciting climate tech, more specific focused companies from the region look to want to come, they're going to sit in a very neat crosshairs, as I say, with the UK and the London ecosystem wanting to invest in international stars, tech and growth, and companies and issuers that contribute very directly to the green economy. So I think a good place to be, and I'm sure we'll see more support to come.
When entering the UK or setting up a shop here to benefit from that? Sorry, Andrew, we
We only got you very faintly for the last few seconds.
Try again.
So, Jana, just a question to you. Sorry.
I can hear you now.
Oh, you can hear me now. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
okay.
So, a quick question about the government support for startups that are here in the US and want to set up shop here, and what kind of support they can count on from the government.
So there is definitely a range of tools and financial mechanisms that are designed to actually attract foreign startups, overseas companies that are looking to set up their business in the UK, and then also help them to grow. So there are number of grants and financial support. Also, obviously, off top of my head, I wanna have them all. And companies that are interested actually in learning more about the support that is available here in the UK, government support mainly, I encourage them to actually contact the maybe British Embassy in their respective markets and their DIT department, because they will have that information. But what I can say is also that the companies, innovative companies, obviously London is a kind of big magnet for them. But I would kind of encourage them to also look at other regions, depending on their area of expertise, on which market they are active, tech market they are active in, whether it's fintech, cleantech, or any other markets. Really do research which actually tech ecosystem, whether that's Bristol, Manchester, or Liverpool, might suit your needs better. Because very often, actually, government support is targeting also other regions rather than London and Southeast England. So I just wanted to raise that point that there are great opportunities also in other parts of the UK.
Thank you very much for that. So it's not only London, but also Manchester and Bristol and other parts of the UK. Now, my final question to you guys, and this question is a little bit, looking at the whole situation from a different perspective. We usually, and this is what we talked about during this panel, we usually look at Central and Eastern European startups perhaps seeking financing or funding in the UK. Can you think of ways of increased collaboration between Central and Eastern Europe, but on the basis of some sort of partnership? So it's not, it's not going one way only, but it's kind of benefiting or perhaps learning from each other. And I think that the example that Russ mentioned earlier, that we have initiatives already that are not only, it's not only the UK that is kind of providing financing, but there is a company in Ukraine, for instance, that wants to attract innovative solutions in sustainability. Is there anything like that you can come up with, or that you can think of at this stage, that we could sort of see Central and Eastern Europe and the UK as more of partners? And this is an open question, so whoever is ready to answer can take it.
I can go first. So Central and East European countries, many of them still very heavily rely on coal or other sort of non-sustainable sources of energy. Obviously, the transitioning is happening also in those countries, and I think in order to transition these industries, technologies are very much needed, because obviously just to phase out coal industry, that might take a couple of years, but what we can do now is to make it more sustainable. And obviously many other enterprises and industries in Central and Eastern European countries are also trying to kind of become more greener. So what we could do, and we actually see it already happening in other countries, for example, Japan. Japan has actually kind of launched a project, Society 5.5, where the government identify sort of key challenges for the Japan to become net zero, or sort of key goals, key objectives for it to become net zero by 2050 or 2060. And actually it launched a series of reverse pitching sessions. So Japanese multinationals actually pitch their challenges to overseas startups. So I believe we could do something similar here in the UK, identify maybe common challenges, and then big companies that are trying to meet those challenges, whether it's just kind of looking for new suppliers, or actually they're trying to become more carbon neutral themselves. They can pitch their challenges to innovative overseas markets. So, and the same can happen in Central Eastern European countries. Enterprises or industries, companies that are looking for innovative partners in the cleantech space can actually pitch their projects or challenges to UK startups. So I think reverse pitching sessions could work, or dance sessions, some sort of having a range of companies, innovative companies, pitching their solutions to a panel of judges. So I think this could work well, and we can do it obviously in virtual space through the platform like this, or just build it from scratch. And we don't really need government support to organize B2B exchanges. It just really kind of it comes down to players like ourselves to identify those challenges and companies that might be interested.
Thank you very much. Tom, would you like to add something to it?
Yeah, perhaps just a couple of things. I think, first of all, with the sort of access to finance that London can provide, clearly there are huge benefits that can bring back home. Sorry, it's a bit of an echo. In terms of employment, tax revenues, etc. So I think even that access to finance, arguably is a win-win. Where we are seeing a lot of companies go one step further is to say, look, I want to raise capital where I feel that the ecosystem understands me best, where the investor base is the largest pool. But I also don't want to lose sight of the fact that I'm a national champion. I can be a real beacon for, hope in my home market as well. And, I've been in the equity capital markets for the best part of 30 years now. And what's been really interesting is you've had this whole cycle that's moved away from companies doing dual listings, for example, consolidating it into sort of one line, to actually over the last sort of 2 or 3 years acknowledging that actually there are benefits from A, having access to local institutions and retail, and B, the bigger pool an international listing may bring. So I think that is definitely one very concrete area where we can see win-win solutions. The third thing I'd say is that I think where London can play a really leading role over time is around things like harmonization of standards, and that whole education around around green economy, sustainability, ESG standards that investors expect. And in fact, that's something that I think over the next year or two, the London Stock Exchange is going to be really trying to take the whole plethora of different reporting requirements that exist around the world on different exchanges, other stakeholders like the UN, etc., and try and work to sort of harmonise that into one consistent set of standards, which I think will be of benefit to all markets. So there's just a few some direct sort of win-wins I can see coming out.
Thank you very much. Russ, I started with you, and I'm going to wrap up with you. So what's your take on that?
Well, I think there's enormous opportunity for collaboration between the UK, Central and Eastern Europe, and other parts of Asia, where we can learn from each other. Nobody has the answer to all of these questions. The UK has gone through a transition away from coal. Poland needs to go through that. We can learn from other countries in terms of what are they doing in spaces like agritech, robotics. Ukraine is a big food producer. What can we learn from them that we can apply here? So it's facilitating that two-way behavior that I think is really key. But then also it's around the cultural change that frankly we all need to go through together. And I think organizations like Technology Europe Advocates and local tech advocates and tech London advocates, coupled with Tech UK and other players in the ecosystem, we have the convening power to bring these communities together. You guys are doing a great job featuring lots of startups in the whole area. We're doing the same thing here. How can we convene us and talk about the ideas, the best practices, so that we're collectively learning from each other? That doesn't cost a lot other than our time and getting together and doing hybrid events and things like that. That is the opportunity that I think sits ahead of us to really make a difference. But we have to remember the clock is ticking. If you don't move quickly, it's going to be tougher and tougher to make these changes.
And I believe we have to be open, basically, to whatever is coming from other less known countries, places, cities, maybe. And like you said, global tech advocates and also emerging Europe advocates and emerging Europe helps do that. Thank you very much for joining us for this session. I just wanted to wrap up briefly the whole event right now. Just to summarize, Emerging Europe Advocates officially launched last year on the 24th of November. So the community of tech entrepreneurs from Central and Eastern Europe is officially 1 year old right now, but we developed quite significantly. There's almost 200 advocates across Central and Eastern Europe right now. The network is being also expanded by a network of ambassadors, because Tech Emerging Europe Advocates covers 25 different geographies, starting from Slovenia in the southwest, going all the way to Turkmenistan in Central Asia. So that's a huge area. So we wouldn't be able to cover this region without our great ambassadors. So I would like to invite those who haven't yet signed up to become an advocate. To do so, you can find all the information on emerging-europe.com/tech-advocates, and hopefully next year in November for the third meeting of Tech Emerging Europe Advocates, we're going to be able to meet in person. I mean, we have an audience here with us today, but the vast majority of our viewers joined us online. Also, most of our speakers joined us online. Hopefully, this will change next year, and we will be done with the pandemic. Thank you very much for joining us today. I have to be hopeful. I know that nobody expected that. In November 2021, we will still be doing virtual events or at least hybrid events, but we're still not done with the pandemic. So hopefully next year in November for the third TEA meeting, we will be done with that, and we will finally be able to meet in person and share more thoughts in person. Thank you very much for joining us today.